Hi, welcome to today's mini lesson on developing competencies in a digital environment for 4th grade and up. We're keeping it short to maximize your time while still having a mighty impact on learning. Our lesson is driven by the question, how can I maximize opportunities for competency development in SpacesEDU? And to answer this, we'll start with student metacognition of competencies through visibility, feedback, and reflection that hone in on these competencies. Then we'll put a lens on engagement opportunities for demonstrating competencies and digital citizenship. Let's start with student metacognition of competencies. Do our students really know what they're learning and why they're learning it? I used to have a principal that would often pop into my 7th grade classroom to ask my students those very questions. With I can statements on my whiteboard, carefully crafted rubrics, handouts that featured what competencies were being assessed, I felt pretty confident that they did, but I was always looking for opportunities for further visibility. SpacesEDU is this extra opportunity. Earlier video mini lessons on competency visibility and powering up on assessment practices take a deeper dive on this, but as a quick review, teachers can tag posts with curriculum tags to support their own assessment practices, but for older students, this is added visibility to build their understanding of competencies. Teachers can add curriculum tags to activities. Just like with posts, this helps teachers with their own assessment, but students can use these tags as a guide. Additionally, teachers can be intentional and support their written instructions and tags with media that supports their curricular objectives, such as exemplars, their unit slide deck, or a rubric. When it comes to feedback, teachers don't need to provide feedback on everything that students are doing in SpacesEDU. That's not a realistic expectation for anything classroom related. But being intentional on what receives feedback and providing feedback that is tied to competencies goes miles on the return when it comes to reassessment opportunities or future coverage of those competencies. Students can also use SpacesEDU to build upon their reflective processes. Reflection, whether done mid-lesson as an exit ticket before the bell rings or at the end of the unit, needs to be intentional, as reflection on its own is a competency that takes time to master. Providing sentence starters is especially helpful for prompting or scaffolding student reflection. Pulling out the verbs from curricular competencies, especially the evaluative verbs such as assess, evaluate, and justify, helps students interact with their learning at a deeper level when it comes to reflection. And finally, providing dedicated time and space for reflection is essential. Reflection doesn't have to be written. Having students take a pause to talk through their process and next steps in an audio or video clip is a great strategy for supporting metacognitive practices. So, how can students actively demonstrate competencies in SpacesEDU? SpacesEDU is a digital documentation and assessment tool, but is also an engagement platform, perfect for engaging with content and curricular competencies in real time. How about using the class or one-to-one spaces for an on-the-spot entry ticket to activate knowledge from a previous lesson or as a lesson hook? It doesn't need to be layered or complicated or even assessed. My competency here is on persuasion, and this is just another touch point to practice this in a low-stakes manner. Oh, and in my personal opinion, I do love that Post Malone went country. Or, how about using SpacesEDU for project-based learning? Many curricular competencies put as much emphasis on the process as they do on the product. But how do you capture this in real time? In this applied design example, the student discusses and demonstrates their safe use of the tools used in their design. As a teacher, it's hard to capture this on a one-to-one basis with, 20 to 30 students in a classroom, but can be captured and saved in SpacesEDU for a later review. Or, how about using SpacesEDU for group projects? The group space is a great way to keep all students engaged in the group project and to keep everyone accountable for their learning and to build off one another's ideas. Or how about peer feedback opportunities? Peer feedback encompasses several competencies in its own right, such as communication or offering constructive criticism based on application of learned knowledge. And just like reflection, it is something that needs to be intentionally taught and practiced to be constructively used. Peer feedback is also great for celebrations of learning. SpacesEDU is an easy way to share learning out to your classroom community. Finally, SpacesEDU definitely lends itself to further engagement with competencies through student-led conferencing. Students can showcase from their overall feed, or they can have a dedicated student-led conferencing one-to-one space in which they can copy posts into this space. My closing discussion on maximizing opportunities for competency development is digital citizenship itself. Digital citizenship is best taught with frequent practice, and providing students with a controlled online environment for safe development opportunities is something worth investing in. The engagement examples I've shared in this mini lesson are just starting points, but peer feedback on its own is practiced in at least 4 of these examples. I could go deeper with this, but let's keep this mini. Thank you for your time today. Do not hesitate to reach out to our friendly support team at hello@spacesedu.com or to check out our website for great content and resources.